You know that feeling right after a bad argument? Not during it, after when the heat has dropped and you're sitting with what just happened. The things that were said, the way it escalated from a small thing into something that felt like it was about everything. The moment where it stopped being about the actual issue and became about something older and maybe something bigger, something neither of you fully named. Are you sitting there thinking? I know I am. How do we get here? Again, most men I know, including myself, were never taught how to have a hard conversation. We were taught to avoid them or to win them or to outlast them by going silent until the other person gives up. None of those are communication. All of them cost a relationship something every time they happen. Last episode, we talked about our attachment styles and how that shapes the way you show up in relationships. Today, we get specific about the hardest moments, conflict. What actually happens in your brain and body when things get heated, why conversations escalate the way they do, and what fighting fair actually looks like when you are in the middle of it. And we back, and we back, and we back, and we back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sana IE. I'm your host, XO. Let's talk about it. Fighting fair, conflict resolutions, all of that. Why conflicts go sideways, and the biology of it. So before we talk about what to do in conflict, I want to explain why conflict goes the way it goes. Because I think once you understand the biology of an argument, you stop blaming yourself or your partner for how things escalate and you start seeing it as a problem you can actually solve. So here's what happens in your body when conflict starts. The moment a conversation feels threatening, emotionally threatening, not physically, your amygdala fires. Cortisol, adrenaline floods your system. Your nervous system shifts into a version of fight or flight. And critically, the same thing we covered in our body episode, your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking center, is partially suppressed, which means the part of your brain responsible for empathy, perspective taking, nuanced communication, and long-term thinking, the part that knows the relationship matters and that what you say in the next 60 seconds will have consequences. That part is running at reduced capacity exactly when you need it most. That isn't weakness. That is human neurology. Every person in every relationship experiences some version of this. The question is not whether the alarm fires, because it will. The question is what to do when it does. And y'all know I got that research for you. So let me grab this research out the air. I'm just playing. Research published in the Applied Family Therapy Journal in 2025 identified 4 primary themes that drive conflict escalation in relationships. Emotional triggers, including unresolved past hurts and financial anxiety. Communication breakdowns, including escalating criticism. Family of origin patterns, where people replicate the conflict scripts they grew up watching. And cognitive biases, where partners feel chronically misunderstood because their self-perception and their partner's perception of them diverge. Every one of these is addressable. None of them require the conflict to go the way it has always gone. The research on what actually predicts relationship failure is remarkably specific. If you haven't heard this before or heard this name, John Gottman, one of the most respected relationship researchers in the world, identified what he calls the four horsemen of relationship destruction: contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Not disagreement, not conflict. These 4 specific behaviors, when they become the default pattern, predict relationship breakdown with accuracy that should get everyone's attention. Let's start with the first one. Contempt is the most destructive. It is not anger. Anger at least implies you still care. Contempt is treating your partner as beneath you. The eye roll, the dismissive tone, the sense of superiority. And it communicates, I don't respect you. And nothing erodes trust faster than contempt. Has that happened in your past relationships? I'm thinking myself, not me personally, but I've seen it in other relationships. Let's talk about the second one. Criticism is attacking character rather than addressing behavior. Not, I felt hurt when you did that, but you always do this because you're selfish. The difference matters enormously. One opens a conversation, the other starts a war. We all see the criticism, whether that's from family members, you in a relationship, whatever it may be. We've all been on both sides of criticism. And I think it's just reframing what that criticism is. What I've been learning all these past few weeks, one of the books I read is How to Win Friends and Influence People. The first chapter is a very important chapter. And it really states, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And you'll be surprised how many people criticize, condemn, and complain on a daily basis. So with that being said, protect your mind from people that complain, criticize, and condemn, as well as yourself. Don't fall into that trap. The third one, defensiveness, is treating every concern your partner raises as an attack that requires a counterattack. It signals, I'm not actually hearing you. I am building my case against you. The conversation never moves forward because no one is actually listening. Ain't that something? All of these I ran into with different relationships in my life. And defensiveness, one person comes to mind, love them to death, but yeah. Stonewalling. Stonewalling is shutting down entirely, going silent, leaving the room, becoming a wall. It looks calm, but it usually physiology flooding. The nervous system, it's so overwhelmed, it shuts off input entirely. It leaves the partner feeling completely alone in the middle of something important. Any of these sound familiar? Most of us have done all four at some point. The goal isn't to have never done them, it is to do them less and to know what to replace them with. So that leads us up to our next segment. Before the hard conversation, set yourself up. Here's something most conflict advice skips. The most important work happens before the hard conversation starts, because the most hard conversations fail before the first word is spoken, because one or both people enter them already dysregulated, already defensive, already running the old script. The conversation is over before it begins. So let's talk about the moves to make. Move number one, regulate first. This is non-negotiable. If you're already flooded, heart elevated, body tense, mind running, worst case scenarios, you are not ready to have a productive conversation. Not because you're weak, because your prefrontal cortex, your prefrontal cortex is not fully online. Give yourself about 20 to 30 minutes minimum to come down from a flooded state before attempting to resolve anything significant. You may have to go for a walk, do something physical, breathe. The conversation will still be there when you come back, and you will be more capable of having it. And that's the thing. Remove yourself from the situation. If it's give yourself that 20 to 30 minutes to decompress and then go back and readdress the conversation. What I like to say is that when that comes about, I was like, let's put a pin in this and reconvene about 20 to 30 minutes from now. Move number two, know what you're actually trying to say. Most hard conversations go sideways because people lead with what they feel rather than what they need. Feeling and need are related, but they are not the same. I am angry is a feeling. I need to feel like my perspective matters to you is a need. You get what I'm saying? Leading with the need gives the conversation somewhere to go. Leading with the feeling alone often just escalates the emotion on both sides. Move number three, choose the moment. Timing matters when it comes to this. A conversation started when someone just walked in the door, when they're hungry, when they're already stressed about something else, starts at a disadvantage. You're not asking for permission to never have the conversation. You're asking the conditions that give it the best chance of going well. I need to talk to you about something important. Can we find 30 minutes tonight when things are calm? That single move changes the entire dynamic. Checking in with the other person to see, hey, when you got time, let's talk, let's resolve what happened earlier, instead of just going right into it because you feel like, oh, I'm ready to go to war or battle. But the other person, like I said, they may be tired, hungry, fresh off work. They're not trying to have that conversation right then and there. And research on hard conversation in close relationships published in the ACM's Proceedings of Human Computer Interaction in 2024 found that therapists consistently emphasize a critical principle. Emotional processing must occur before people can come to the table to effectively resolve disagreement. One researcher quoted directly, "The moment right after a fight with your partner is not the moment to evaluate whether or not you want a divorce. The hot moment isn't the truth. The regulated moment is where real communication happens." So that leads me up to, during the hard conversation, what fighting fair actually looks like. All right. You're in the conversation, right? Conversation is happening. Here's what fighting fair looks like in real time. Fight the issue, not the person. This is the most important rule and one of the most often violated under pressure. The moment the conversation shifts from this situation is a problem to you are the problem, you have lost the thread. Everything after that is damage control. Stay on the specific behavior or situation, not you never listen in this conversation. I felt like I was not being heard, not you're always irresponsible with money. I'm worried about the decision we made last week and I want to talk about it. Be specific. Behavioral, present, not character, not always, not never. Use I statements, not you statements. This isn't about being soft. It's about being effective and accountable. You made me feel disrespected is an accusation. I felt disrespected when that happened is information. One puts the partner on defense immediately. The other opens a door. One open them doors. Defensiveness is the enemy of resolution. I statements reduce defensiveness. That is the whole point. Addressing it with I instead of you. When you put yourself with I felt this way, I felt, it opens up the door in that person's mind, like, okay, I'm hearing what they're saying. And they're not defensive. They're coming from a place of understanding. So they're here to understand, not here to respond. Most people in conflict aren't listening. They're waiting for their partner to stop talking so they can make their point, and the partner can feel that. It accelerates the exhalation because feeling unheard is one of the most activating experiences in a close relationship. Man. What I like to say, what I like to teach my clients is listen to listen. Don't listen to respond. Because as humans, as I just said, we are listening for our response back. We're getting defensive. We want to, boom, I want to say this, I want to say that. But it's like listening to understand what that person is saying and how they're feeling. And showing them that respect and courtesy. Like, let me sit here and listen to what you're saying so I can process everything instead of me trying to wait for you to stop so I can get in my counter punches. And I'm saying this, genuinely try to understand what your partner is saying before you formulate your response. You may have to ask a clarifying question, reflect back on what you heard. It sounds like you're saying you felt dismissed. Is that right? Doesn't that sound better than trying to come back? It sounds like you're saying this, sounds like you're paying attention to what they're saying. And that question right there slows everything down and signals that you are actually present in this conversation. And a research in Mind magazine's 2025 synthesis of relationship conflict research found that couples who use what researchers call if-then implementation plans agreed upon scripts for how they handle reoccurring conflict situations before those situations arise, experience significantly less escalation and recover from disagreements faster. So having those scripts, when you know that, having those conflict resolution scripts, whatever it may be, right there at your disposal, so you know how to handle that, because no relationship is perfect. Every relationship gets tested with outside forces or maybe an argument that may come about, but it's just understanding how we handle these conflict resolutions and have that conversation in the early stages of whether you're dating or early stages of marriage or even having marriage counseling. Because the most effective couples don't just fight better in the moment, they design how they will fight before they need to. They agree when things get heated, we take a break. When either of us says stop, we stop. We come back, and we come back without the score from last round. That design is a form of relational leadership. So, signal the pause before you need it, not after. One of the most damaging patterns in conflict is the unilateral shutdown, where one person simply goes silent and leaves without communicating what is happening. It leaves the partner in confusion and often escalates the very anxiety that stonewalling was trying to avoid. Instead, build a signal with your partner in advance, a word, a phrase, an agreed upon gesture that means I'm at capacity right now and I need 20 minutes. I'm not abandoning this conversation, I am protecting it. That one agreement alone can transform how conflict goes in a relationship. Repair and repair early. Gottman's research shows that the most important predictor of relationship stability is not whether couples fight, it is whether they repair effectively after conflict. A repair attempt is any move that de escalates, that signals we are still on the same team. It can be a touch, a small joke at the right moment. I don't want to fight about this. I love you. And this matters to me. That's what it comes down to. It does not have to be grand. It doesn't have to be it has to be genuine. And it has to happen, not get buried under the next issue. So understanding that it's having those signals in the relationship when it comes, have that code word, having that safe word so you don't go overboard, so feelings don't get hurt in the process, because we all seen it happen. It happens countless, whether you're watching movies, you see arguments happen, you saw arguments growing up as a child, or you see arguments today between friends who have a relationship, whatever it may be. It's like having that signal word and teaching them, hey, if you see people that constantly argue, constantly have conflicts, tell them like, hey man, y'all should have some conflict resolution or a signal word that says, hey, let's stop and reconvene in about 20 or 30 minutes. Now, I want to spend a few minutes specifically on money conversations, because financial conflict is consistently identified as the number one topic couples fight about, and it is also consistently the least productively handled. Here's why money fights are different from other fights. Money is never just money in a relationship. It is security, it is power, it is values, it is what you grew up believing about survival. When two people with different money histories and different money psychologies, which we covered in our 2 episodes. If you haven't heard this, your first time listening, go back and check those out for me. Try to make financial decisions together under stress. The conversation is carrying an enormous amount of unspoken weight before the first word is said. The scarcity mindset, we talked about it, shows up in money conversations as defensiveness, as shutting down, as avoiding the discussion entirely until avoidance is no longer the option. The attachment style from last episode shows up as fear of losing control, fear of abandonment. If the financial situation changes, fear of being judged or dismissed for spending habits or financial mistakes. Money conversations require everything we just covered: the regulation, the I statements, the focus on the issue, not the person. Plus, one additional layer: shared values clarification. Before the budget conversation, before the investing conversation, before we can't afford that conversation, the most useful conversation is, what does financial security actually mean to each of us? What are we building toward? What does enough look like? When both people can see the shared goal, when the financial conversation is about moving towards something together rather than fighting over resources, the entire dynamic shifts. You are no longer adversaries in the same budget. You are partners with the same vision. Guess it's time to land this plane. So let me close this out. Conflict isn't the enemy of a good relationship. It is part of every good relationship. Two people who genuinely care about different things, who carry different histories, who have different needs, they're going to disagree. The question is never whether a conflict happens. It is what you do with it when it does. The couples who thrive, the relationships that actually last and actually feel like something, they're the ones who never fight. They aren't the ones who never fight. Fighting is a part of relationships. Disagreements are a part of relationships. It just happens. They're the ones who fight toward each other, who stay in conversation even when it feels uncomfortable, who repair quickly, who have learned slowly and imperfectly to hear the person's pain without making it an attack. That is a skill, not a talent, not something you're born with. A skill that can be learned, practiced, and gotten better at. The same way every person Every other skill we talked about on the show, we can build it. So your homework this week, and I want you to actually do this one. Identify one reoccurring conflict pattern in your most important relationship. Not to fix it yet, just name it. Where does it start? What is the trigger? What does each person do? What does it cost both of you? And just see it clearly. You may have to write it down and just give that time to think. Because you can't fight fair about something you can't see. So next week, we close theme 1 with the partner episode. The gap between the partner you think you are and the one you actually being. That one's going to hit close to home for a lot of people. This is Sana. I'm XO. See y'all next week. Love y'all. Share the show, like the show. If this show helped you out, share it with somebody who needs some type of conflict resolution when it comes to fighting fair in relationships, in arguments, whatever it may be. This help. I can't talk right now. I appreciate y'all, man. Love y'all. See y'all next week. Like the show, subscribe, follow us on social media at Sanai on all platforms. Man, I got to do some thinking myself with this episode. It was a deep one, but I appreciate y'all. See y'all next week.